Revolution Radio at revolution.radio, and I am your host, Janet Care Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha. Alex Lessin, our producer, is Thomas Becker, also known as the Mad Painter, and today we have Aage Nost, and I don't have my bio up because my computer, I had to reboot it, having tech problems, but I have a very elaborate page on aquariumradio.com with everything about Aage, and I'm getting that up here in a moment. I had to reboot my computer, and we're excited to have Aage back. We recorded this show a couple months ago. Anyway, there were some the station was getting transferred, so we didn't capture the recording. So we're doing this again, but we didn't finish all the stuff we wanted to talk about anyway. So it's good. We're just starting over. And we've got a lot to cover. And Dr. Lessin, hi.
Yeah, Aage, let's just pretend that this is the first time people have ever met you. So you just start your tale from the beginning, who you are and what your interests are and what you'd like to share.
And also, you mentioned had some information on this virus. So let's see what we can learn about that from you, because it's quite a mystery to everybody, the coronavirus. So welcome to the show, Aage.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here again, and I'm sure there is some people out there that don't know me, so I am all ears for what feedback they may even have.
Right. So you're very wise on so many, in so many directions. You're very knowledgeable and spiritual and conscious. So where would you like to start?
Well, I don't really know. This is your show, and I'm riding back seat with you wherever you want to go. I'll go with you.
Okay. Start in the present and go work back to your childhood then.
Okay.
Now, what's the most relevant things that stand out that are relevant to who you are in this here and now? You're even a different person than the one we talked to 2 months ago. Who are you, Aage?
Well, when we talked 2 months ago, I was in the process of setting up a MasterMind. And we have done that now, and we are running that MasterMind, and we are getting some phenomenal results with it. And if I can just talk about that for about 2 or 3 minutes, that will be great. Then I can explain it, and hopefully that, mostly people can understand. The MasterMind is basically when 2 or more minds are united in harmony, they create a third mind, which has the potential mind power of the 2 or more of them multiplied by each other. So if 1,000 people get together and think on the same thing, directed in a specific direction for maybe healing somebody's cancer, just creating rain over Australia and things like that, then you have the mind power of 1,000,000 minds going in that direction, 1,000 times.
So you're the one that stopped you stopped the fires. Is that what happened? You guys put your concentration on stopping the Australian fires.
Well, yeah, we did, but we were not the only ones. We sure cannot take the credit for that, because there were probably millions of people around the world that was wishing for and hoping for and concentrating on creating rain over Australia. We just did a small little part of it. And it's amazing how coincidences happen, because we did it on one day and the next day there were thunderstorms all over Western Australia.
I thought you were in on that. Yeah.
And on the other hand is something that we did. There was a lady up in Iowa that got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And Nori Love and I, we helped to create a mastermind around her. And in 2 months, she went back to the doctor and there were no cancer in her body anywhere. So there is something to this mastermind. And for people that wants to join or have a look at it, just send us an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. Themastermindconnection@gmail.com. And we'll get you a link so you can participate.
Well, that's like that experiment back in the 70s when all the gurus came into one of the cities in Ohio, or was it, or something? What city was that, honey? You used to tell the story. Anyway, they all started praying and meditating, and their crime rates went way down.
Babaji brought a bunch of his people into a crime-ridden suburb, and they meditated and regularly, and the crime rate went way down.
Yeah, that was, in fact, I think it was in the late 80s and the early 90s when there's a meditation group that did that, and they decreased. They started out with 800 people. They were close to 5,000 by the time they stopped the experiment. I think there was, I think they ran it for close to 7 weeks or something like that, and they decreased the crime in Washington, D.C. by 23%. As soon as they shut off and they quit the experiment, it went right back up to normal.
Interesting.
So it is.
What can we do about the latest thing that's running around the planet and creating panic? Is this coronavirus? What do you know about it? Is it real? Is it some kind of some people are saying it's 5G. It's just artificial. Is it genetic? What do you call it? Bioengineered to be, a disease that wipes out the earth? Can we do this mastermind and just pray it away or meditate it away? What's your thoughts on that, Aage?
Yeah, first of all, if I've been reading foreign newspapers, and that's where you get the real truth. You don't see anything worthwhile in the American newspaper. So there's papers out of Sweden and Norway, and Der Spiegel out of Germany is a good one, and there is also Al Jazeera, believe it or not, out of Lebanon. You can really find some truth there, because some of the stuff that they write about, they back it up by science. And we're finding that the coronavirus, has section in its structure that can theoretically not be there unless it was placed there. So it is a man-made genetic structure to the virus. In other words, it has been put in a place where it can replicate itself at an accelerated rate. And it looks to the people that is looking at it, they tried to make it a bioweapon. And the thing about it is that, it comes out of China, but guess who holds the patent on it? I'll tell you when you miss it.
Donald Rumsford.
Huh?
Donald Rumsford.
No. He's got.
Who holds the patent? Who holds it?
I'd rather not say the name, but it's the Microsoft man. He holds the patent.
We know who that is.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is...
Wow, that's really heavy. That's what you're saying is really heavy. The people who are doing charitable works to try to eradicate problems they're causing.
Absolutely. That's the way it works. And I wrote down for those out there, I wrote down a little note for you, the coronavirus patent. Look up patent number. That's why you should have a piece of paper and a pen by when you listen to me, because you can get some pearls once in a while. I'll let you write this down. It's 101.
Okay. I got my pen. Go
ahead. Okay, let me read that again. Start over again. 101-30-701. It was filed on July 23, 2015, and granted on November 20, 2018. There is also a patent publication number that is 201 7021 6427. The inventors are listed: Erica Bickerton and Sarah Keep and Paul Britton. Those three scientists are the inventors. And it is assigned to the Pirbright Institute. So there you have it. Go research it.
Well, we're gonna come out with this and let everybody know.
So why are they creating bioengineered genetic?
Well, it's
weapons?
kind of like, the SARS didn't work, and the AIDS virus didn't work, and they have many different viruses that has come out that were hoping to reduce the population of Earth down to 800 million people, but it's failed. And of course, this one is going to fail too, because it is already failing. The thing about it is the coronavirus, the basic structure of it is the flu virus. And many more people die from the flu than will ever die from this coronavirus, because what we are seeing in foreign newspapers, try Swedish newspapers and so on, the Swedes are good at this. They tell the truth. And what they're seeing is that this is China's false flag. They have a lot of opposition now, under the surface, and they want to clean out their opposition. So what people coming out of China are reporting is that they are rounding up the people that has been part of demonstrations and is opposing the government and the way they are doing things with the social, the structure that they get a social number, and the lowest numbers on that scale, they're rounding those people up. So they're cleaning out the opposition to the system of things, putting them in prison, calling it hospitals, but they don't give them any treatment. So when they get there, they get an inoculation and they die. We should only wonder what is in that inoculation.
Right.
So this is what you just go and start reading foreign newspapers, and you're going to find out a lot of stuff that you'll never see anywhere else.
I wonder if there's going to be a reduction in the price of organs from executed people as a result of the glut of the market.
Yeah, they've
some people who die from the virus.
Yeah, they can't. They can't use those, of course. But I used to know. I flew for 23 years, and I knew a pilot that flew a Longhorn Learjet from the United States to Beijing once a week, and he came back full of coolers with organs in it. And
oh my God!
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So this is what they did, and the thing about it is that can be all right because people die, and they, in China, of course, the way that the system is set up, that if you did not specifically say that you did not want your organs to be taken from you, then they took it because you are government property. But I tell you, when we're talking about the virus, there is also a way that I'm not worried about it at all. And there is something that you can do so you never will be sick from it. And I can tell you what that is. I learned that a long decades ago from a martial art master. And he told me, if you do this one thing, you will never be sick. And what he told me, I'll get to that, but what he told me is actually backed by science, and that is, in 1931, Dr. Warburg got the Nobel Prize for discovering that no bacteria or no virus can live in a heavy oxygenated environment.
Oh.
And also an alkaline environment. So what he found is that if we oxygenate the body and we keep an alkaline body, we will never get sick. And there is a way we can do that. I can tell you what I do. I'm not a doctor, so I cannot tell you or prescribe anything. I'll just tell you what I do. I take about half a teaspoon of baking soda in 2 glasses of water in the morning, and I drink that. That brings my pH value of the body up to about 8. And 7 is neutral. So I am quite a bit alkaline. On top of that, what the master told me, he said, "Well, just sit down, take 20 deep breaths. Then you're going to be slightly dizzy. And then you back off a little bit on the breaths. And then when you start seeing that the dizziness goes away, you start breathing, increase your breathing again, so you stay slightly dizzy for about 3 to 5 minutes. And believe me, this is hard work. By the time you've done this for 5 minutes, you are wore out. And it doesn't sound like it, but it is. And what happens here is that when you do this for 5 minutes, you flood the blood with oxygen. The oxygen gets in the lung, gets in the air sac, transferred into the bloodstream, and blood gets everywhere in the body. And it snuggles up to virus and bacteria and kills it. That is what I do. And I never get sick. I haven't been sick in my life except for bad hangovers.
So what is baking soda? What is it?
Baking soda is, I use it for wash clothes with it and all kinds of things. But baking soda alkalizes the body. And it works very well at that. Sodium bicarbonate is what it is, the chemical composition.
Salt.
It's a form of a distant cousin of salt, yeah.
Wow.
I also thought this whole thing could be a method of controlling products and services, from preventing it from things from going around the planet. And they can say artificial shortages and raise prices. Is true.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the United States, the industry in the United States is going to learn something from this. And that is that there is whole industry production chains that was invented in the United States, but the United States no longer make it. They make it in China. So if China is cut off, we are, SSOL, because we don't have access to the products anymore.
Right. We don't know how to make it anymore.
Yeah, so we need to start producing things here at home. And I'm sure that the industry is learning that lesson right now, especially automobile factories, which get I don't know about most, but a lot of their parts from China.
Yeah. So that might be part of China's intention. It's like, you need us.
I don't think this was China's intention, because the United States is China's biggest trading partner. They don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. This was introduced by someone, and I just already told you a little bit about who, that has actually controls a laboratory in that town where it comes from. I'm trying to stay away from names here so we don't get flagged.
We'll stay away from names. It's fine.
Yeah, but first of all, YouTube is...
Doing it. So they want to they want to get rid of some people that are dissidents in their country. So
Yeah.
They want to carry out people. They want to get off the streets and out of their politics. They want to. So you're saying they don't want to limit production to increase their values, so people get, oh, this is why we need the Chinese, because we outsource all this stuff and now we don't know how to make it anymore.
Right.
That's my thought. I mean, I was just looking at this from how this whole scare is affecting, the distribution of things around the planet.
The Xi regime was feeling shaky. People were really inspired by Hong Kong. They were very fearful that this is going to spread the spirit of the Chinese people in Hong Kong, and Xi is rounding up his possible enemies, just like the North Korean dictator does. And You make total sense to me, Maggie.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that get on some foreign newspapers and you see these kinds of things. There are reports and videos. Not on YouTube, but there are internal videos in some of these publications that talks with Chinese scientists. They can talk to them for, a couple of times, and when they go back, they can't find them anymore. So, we wonder what happens to them after they put these videos out about what is happening within their country.
The rage in China has been about the doctor that tried to warn the other doctors, and he was silenced by the authorities, but everybody in China heard that story, and they're really mad at the government now. But the government's got the gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It comes down to who's got the guns in so many cases.
Yeah. Well, that was uplifting. Well, shit.
But I'll tell you, that's why I told you about what my martial art master told me, because I am not worried about it, because I will not get sick from this. There is no chance of that ever happening. And if it has showed up in the United States for a few incidents, and chances are that it'll be a little more, but it's not going to be that bad as far as I can see in my timeline.
Okay, good.
Because it's a flu virus.
It's just another variation of the flu.
Yeah.
And people die every year of the flu, but then a lot more people survive it.
So let's look at the procedure, how you got to find a patent on it. Because if we can keep finding patent, have a weapon, and limiting the use of pathogens, how did you find that?
In a foreign newspaper.
Oh, okay.
So a journalist in another country did the research and somehow got that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And let's see, I forget who it was. It could be Svenska Dagbladet, or it could be, I'm not sure now.
Brilliant work. Wow.
But it is available. See, what people don't know is that there is two systems of patenting. One of them is where I'm a patent holder, and I went and got a patent. That's 20-some years ago now, and it's expired. But I got a patent to the regular patent bureau system for people like you and me. But then there is another system of patents for government issue, military patents and stuff like that. And they are a little harder to find because they don't advertise that. But this one was placed in that arena, and that's why there are different numbers. In fact, there are more numbers there. That's why it is up to, I forget what, 10 million? 10 million patents in the government patent system, and there's only, I think, about 7 of the ones that you and me have access to.
And, and the way this is embedded is so interesting because by organizations and charities that say we're doing good for the world, What they're really doing is doing well for their pocketbooks at the expense of the world, really.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and
Jerry Das wrote.
Yeah, Jerry Das.
What's that book called?
Winners Take All.
Winners Take All. How philanthropists are just, they're accumulating all the wealth, and then they get to feel good about giving. They're not really giving where it's needed most. They're making all the choices about where they give and how much and when.
And they're making sure that you don't question the structure of the system that keeps them taking the profits from everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets complicated. But it's not going to be that bad. I mean, it already is bad in China, but it's not going to be that bad here.
So, how is your MasterMind group working? So you meet once a week or something, or is it
we meet once a week on Sunday at 2:00 in the afternoon East Coast time, 11 o'clock California time, and we spend about an hour where we do join minds. Basically, we just all think about the same thing, we visualize the same thing, we intend the same thing, and we put emotion and feeling into it. That is the spiritual language, and we send that off into the quantum, and it looks around until it finds a match and start bringing that back into the physical. And this has a phenomenal track record, so that's why I'm encouraging people to join us. The more the better.
So what are some of the things that you focus on? How long have you been in existence?
We started, it's about a month ago that we got up and running, and it's been a long haul getting it to the point where we just opened the doors. But we are now, it's about a month. I think we've been doing this. And besides that, it's fun. We learn a lot. I talked about neuroscience today and how the mind and the brain interact, because they're not the same thing, and how the brain can use them, tap into the mind and bring things back into the physical, and how the brain can reprogram itself for success and all kinds of different other things, good health and so on. And I'm starting a class on self-hypnosis here on this coming Wednesday. And that's going to be good, because if you add self-hypnosis to some of the things that we learn otherwise, it is much more powerful than it is just talking to yourself when you're totally conscious.
So if somebody is suffering from a disease, they're ill at ease, will this help them turn around their own diseases like cancers and other things?
Well, it's hard to say. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And the reason that it works for some people is usually because they have a totally different mindset on the illness or the error that is in the body. They may be in total alignment with the fact that I am going to cure this. It can be done. I will do it. And this is how I'm going. Let's say that you have an infected tooth and it hurts like the dickens. So, and you really don't want to pull that tooth out because you're going to look funny. So now you go and visualize the tooth, the nerves from the tooth going into the jaw, and you visualize a healthy tooth, and you just go through this process, and you'd be amazed what can happen from just that alone. But if it's done under hypnosis, it's got a lot more effect than it's done just otherwise.
Right.
That makes so much sense to me in Tantra, that you can imagine extension of your finger to a person's heart, and all kinds of things like that. And they can immediately feel the energy of your finger connecting with their heart.
Yeah. Yeah. The mind is a wondrous thing. And I tell you, very few people, I don't know if anybody really understand what the mind is capable of.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at here. So you have some people, when they go and get a diagnosis, then they start dying faster. It's like they buy into the person, the guru, authority figure that they had tell them, that they are dying.
You'll die when your insurance runs out.
So the lady, was it a woman that you did the MasterMind? Was she like a happier person? So a lot of people that are angry or always complaining, they seem to suffer and die of diseases quicker than people that are laughing all the time and happy and joyous and have a positive attitude. What level does that affect someone's?
Oh, very, very much so. And also, if you have toxic situations with the food, let's say that you're a drug addict, you're going to have a little tougher time, because it's not just getting rid of the negative thinking. Now you got to get rid of the poisons in the body also. And you have more things to get rid of and more things to be concerned about. So, if it's just negative thinking, that can be turned around fairly quickly. I must have helped, I don't know, hundreds of people quit smoking, because I tell them at the end of the session that when you come out of I snap my finger and bring them out, and I tell them, next time you reach for a cigarette, go ahead and reach for it, light it up. When you put it in your mouth, it's going to taste like cow manure.
That's a good one.
And you'll be amazed how many people I've had contact me back and says, well, I quit. I just don't like cow manure.
That was good. That's a good one. Cow manure. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're using just hypnosis, or are you using anything in addition? Because a lot of people go get hypnosis and it helps, and other people doesn't.
Yeah.
You're doing it added besides the cow manure image.
I think that's probably two reasons for that. First of all, maybe the hypnotist didn't get them deep enough, or it could be that the person, he goes to do the session, but he really doesn't want to quit.
Right.
Then it's harder. If somebody tell me that, yes, I want to quit, and they don't mean it, I go along and assume that he wants to quit, because, we kind of like to believe them. But then if it doesn't work, then I realize that, then maybe he didn't want to. And if I then ask him, I kind of enjoy doing it. A cup of coffee and a cigarette after dinner is nice. Then, he's on his own until he comes, because I don't want to take that enjoyment away from him. So let him have it until he figured it out that for every pack of cigarette that you smoke, you reduce your lifespan 1 hour. There is a scientist that has come up with that number.
Wow. That's something to consider. But some people don't care, because they start when they're young and they go, I got a long life. And then they have with a hole in their throat and they're smoking through the hole in their throat.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, God. So I'm looking at our list of topics. It's up on aquarianradio.com. Tell us about the holographic self-aware universe.
Oh, yeah. Well, the self-aware holographic universe is it's actually a real thing. When we talk about the holographic universe, it is let me back up a little bit. There is a scientist. His name is James Gates. He's a theoretical physicist, and he's been doing this all his life, looking into the quantum equations. And he has found that deep in the equations explaining the fabric of space, He found computer code. He found concepts representing ones and zeros. And they are too much organized, symmetrical, in fact, some of them, so that there is no chance they could be there by accident or by chance. With other words, he found there is an intelligence behind putting the fabric of space together. And that's why I'm saying that you guys, I'm sure you watched the movie Matrix. And whoever wrote the script to that movie, they knew something. Now, James Gates, he speaks very eloquently on this, and he says there is an intelligence behind the universe. And I know in Christian terms we will call it God, or even with other religions, they will claim, yeah, that's God, and okay, I'm good with that. That's just different name for the same thing. But there is an intelligence that has put it all together. And whatever it is, whoever it is, I'm not so concerned about the computer so much. I want to find out who is running the computer. There is...
Could it be you? Could it be you? Could it be each person is inputting? Could it be each one of us collectively?
I think for the physical part of it, absolutely, it is us. Probably even the lower astral worlds, it is us that is running that computer. But at the higher levels, there is a superior intelligence that we are part of. So we have, first of all, we have access to it, and we are part of it. So when we need something or want something, that being information or resources or whatever we would want, we can go to that intelligence. And of course, let me paraphrase here and say, hey, I am part of this. Let me have what is mine. And then we can pull that out and bring it back into the physical. I'm not so sure I've explained that because we get what we are, not what we ask for. Our vibration decides what we will have. If we are a really scuzzbucket of a person that has done nothing but evil and bad things all their life, then and we go in and ask for something that is really spiritual, chances are that we're not able to communicate with that source because there are too many blocks in our mind preventing us from allowing the vibration to go to that level. It works better the other way around. If we're a really good person, we can still communicate with the ones that has of a lesser vibration that has stronger needs. And this is one of the things that is hard to wrap our heads around, because when I had my download about 5 years ago, when the universe was explained to me, it showed a lot of things that really science is coming around to, but it wasn't that easy to understand.
You know, Aage, if I could do one thing that have your masterminds all minding together, it would be to reach the 1% of the 1%, and to let Pharaoh, in this current form of the elite, feel love and compassion and a real oneness with everybody else. That's what I would like the mastermind to do.
Yes. Absolutely. You should come and test out this session and see what you think of it.
I will, because that seems a way of doing it, instead of damning the opponents to hell and alienating them, to embrace them. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And that's the thing. See, there's a tremendous track record. Even 20-some years ago, Art Bell did that experiment when Texas was burning up. It hadn't rained for 4 months. And he asked his listeners to visualize rain over Texas. And the next day, there were thunderstorms all over Texas.
Wow.
So it does happen. The mind, when it's focused, it creates a force, and it creates a power. Not necessarily force, but a power that can reach beyond the physical. That is what happened. When the weather forecasters in Texas, they came out and said, we're dumbfounded, this shouldn't have happened. There were no moisture in the computer models anywhere that could create this rain, but it happened. They didn't understand it. Well, I understood. The MasterMind did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's behind this ultimate polarity of light and dark, good and evil, which seems to be maximizing right now? If this is a created matrix, makes it go extreme polarity like it seems to be doing now?
Well, let me preface this with something that Albert Einstein said. About a year before he died, he said in an interview somewhere, he says, I have to paraphrase again because I don't remember the exact words. I'm close though. And he said, I have studied the universe more than most people, he says, and I have found that this universe in its basic vibration is created from the vibration of love. So, if that's the case, everything is created from love. Love is light. So when you talk about light and darkness, I'm struggling a little bit with it, but there is something to it, and that is that darkness does not exist. There is only blockage of light. Because when you don't go into a room and turn the darkness on. No, you turn the light on. When you shut off the light, it all turns dark. It's the same thing to a certain degree with the universe itself. The universe is made of love and light, but it is blocked in many areas, especially in our brain, in our mind, from things that we've been told since we were 3 inches tall. They're telling us that, oh, no, there's devils out there, there's all kinds of stuff, and you start creating these subconscious mind programs, and that makes it real for you. You react to it, and you starting to work with it. You accept it. I have tried as much as I can to get rid of that expectation and that acceptance of the dark side. And I don't really have, goofy stuff happens, but nothing bad anymore for the last 5 years. It's just been pretty good. And when people say this, I heard this term not long ago, oh God, I can't get a break. Something happened, The subconscious mind listened to that and says, oh, can't get a break? Oh, well, we'll work with that. We'll make sure you don't get one. Because the subconscious mind does not see the difference between what you do and what you think. It goes in and is accepted in its wholeness of the vibration that goes in. So when you say something, the subconscious mind does not think, oh, no, that's wrong. Can't have that. But it accepts it. Now, the strongest subconscious mind program is the one that will run your life. So the ones that you get by the time you're 7 years old, by the time that your character is formed, those programs are really hard to get rid of. They stick with you. I know that. I've had a few of them that weren't that good because they held me back too. Only that I never learned how to say no. So when somebody told me, "Oh, you can't do that," I says, "Yeah, I'll show you." And when people have that attitude, they can create things that other people can't or won't. Determination is very important. You gotta keep your eye on the goal, and we're gonna do a mastermind on this shortly. How about to mastermind yourself into success? And I noticed that back in Europe when I was living, grew up on a farm. I was the one that was supposed to take the farm over, but I figured it out. I didn't want to be a farmer. I wanted different things. Farming life was wonderful. I wanted different things. I wanted to go to the United States and become a pilot, and I started dreaming about it. I had airplanes on the wall. I lived it. And it happened. I ended up going to the United States, becoming a flight instructor and an instrument, multi-engine, just everything you can get. And I ended up in business for myself. This was all created in my head before I even left Norway. And people told me, "You're nuts. You come back like most other people that go to the United States to become a pilot. They come back and drive taxi cabs because you can't take the competition." Well, maybe I had a different attitude because I burned my bridge. I couldn't go back. There are some things that you can do. It can be scary at the time, but it will lead you to success.
I'm struck by this. As within, so without. If the universe it came from a small space and is expanding outward, then so too. We are getting further and further from other people and further from our own energies, our own subpersonalities. And so the way in Carolyn Corey's way of connecting with people that are getting physically further and further apart is to go to the singularity where there's no spatial separation or no temporal separation too. And the way you do that with other people is you look at the parts of your a self that you can see by how you judge other people and realize those are your parts that you need to come to peace with. And so ultimately you go to the singularity within you, which is the common ground, which is the love, the heart chakra that all human beings share. Anyway, that's how I sort of try to integrate all of this.
Absolutely. You're totally right. Because if we go to that space where there is only space, past, present, and future at the same time, we have access to the past, we have access to the future too. And that one is hard to wrap our heads around, because if we have not created anything in the future, there is nothing there. But if we create something in the future, let's go there. Let's say we want something a lot. We want it in the future. We want it to happen tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the latest. And let's say that we want a new home. We find the home we want. In our mind, we visualize it into existence in our mind. We place that in the future, let's say a year down the road. And we now, every day, we go back and forth to that house. We lay down a tractor strings to it. And we go up and down that road to the house. Now we start being drawn up that timeline to the house. And if we, in the meantime, we do all that we can to help it happen, then a year from today, you're going to walk into that house. And The universe will help you pave the road for you. All you have to do is to help out and walk the road. And this has been proven so many times over and over and over again that this is another thing we're going to be doing in the Mastermind. In fact, we got several shows on this on the Broadcast Team Alpha radio show, broadcastteamalpha.com. Go there and you'll find many of these shows where we talk about these things.
Well, it's exactly as you said. It's almost as though you were reading my mind. A long time ago, maybe 50 years ago, I was leading a class. And I said, imagine it's 10 years and everything turns out just the way you want to draw your life, your daily life, draw your place, write all this stuff about your life. And so I drew a place which had a stream running through it, and I totally drew it, and I found it. I was looking for it, and I found it exactly. It was just exactly the way you said.
Yeah, it works that way.
He visualized it long before he found it.
10 years before.
10 years before.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that when you visualize something like that and you place it in the future, you actually give it a low form of life in the future. And you are attached to it. There are these very tiny attractor strings, little bitty tiny strings of light that is attaching you to that thing in the future. And that string will guide you up that timeline to that thing. I've seen those.
It's that all these possibilities exist, and if you want to get to the, I'm not sure how to word this, but I was shown on board a ship when I was 24 timelines, and half of them were very negative, and half of them were positive. And the ones in the middle were kind of, crossover, more neutral. So I've seen all the timelines, complete destruction, and one where it's very utopian. And right now it seems like we're in the wrong timeline from what I was shown. So I've gotten off track in my own visualization for the positive timeline. What would you suggest to me and other people like me? I've heard people say, this is not the future. When I was a child, I imagined a different future than the one I'm in right now. What would you recommend to all of us baby boomers that have a different future we're looking at?
Okay, boomer.
Okay, boomer. How do we back on our positive, wonderful timeline that we were envisioning when we were, dancing in the streets with flowers in our hair? Any recommendation?
I am sure glad that you picked a good timeline. Because I'm in it with you.
Yes, we're all here.
Yeah, and I tell you though, you guys got to come and visit us in the Mastermind, because this is one of the things that I had plans of doing on the next Mastermind session. Visualize something in the future, and I'm going to walk us through it. So we can actually, when the time comes, we will walk right into it. Because once we give it that low form of life in the future like this, and a good picture of it, we infuse emotion, feeling, colorful pictures, and love.
Yeah. You know what Frankl talked about? Imagine a mountain that you're walking up, and it's got places that you can stop, and part way up there's there's you in 10 years, and you can walk behind you in 10 years and look out from those eyes, and you keep going up the mountain until you get to the ultimate that's waiting for your future you. So this is I just love what you're doing. I can't wait to join the group. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, it is. And
on the break, and our producer just said he can't drop the break, so we're going to have to just mute. It's going to be in 1 hour, or not 1 hour, 1 minute, and then we'll be taking a 5-minute break, come in for our second hour. So what do you want to cover in the second hour? Well, I guess we do the Mastermind group, but what are the other highlights for the second hour?
I first, really quick here. That's going to be enough time to get me some more coffee. And also, a friend of mine over in Europe knew I was going to do this show with you, and she asked me, "Could you talk a little bit on life after death?"
Okay. So please mute during the break and we'll be back in 5. Aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix. I'm your host, Janet Care Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alec, and producer is Thomas Becker, also known as Mad Painter. Our guest is Aage Nost, and we're going to pick that up in just a moment here. But first, I would like to remind everybody to please go to that donation tab on the top of revolution.radio on the left-hand side and make your donation, because we really could use your donation. Your donations help us bring all these wonderful shows to you and helps us pay the bills and keeps the lights on. We appreciate your donation. Thank you very, very much for making your donation this week already. So, what would you like to say, Dr. Lessin, before we bring back Aage?
Well, just listen up. This is a chance to learn something and to apply it to your life and apply it to the world. So listen up.
All right, Aage. So we were going to talk about life after death, as per request of one of your listeners.
Yeah.
Are you back?
Yeah, I am back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you. So what happens when you die, from your perspective, sir? What happens?
First of all, I want to say that the term life after death is an oxymoron, because there is no death. There is only separation from purpose for which it was created. You have a separation from the physical holographic existence you think you have been living. And the energy of you, your consciousness, moves on to a different vibration. Now, I know, still death is very relevant in people's mind, because we think that whatever is in the physical is real, and the physical part of us dies, and then, we go somewhere where we don't know where it is, and we don't know what's going to happen and what we're going to look like or anything like that. So what I had happened about 5 years ago, I had a download where all of this was explained in the universe. And in fact, I wrote a book on a lot of that stuff. It's called Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. In that book, I explain a lot of the things that we're wondering about. And in fact, it teaches you how to use your mind in ways you normally would think would be impossible. I have evidence for myself that there is a continuation after physical termination. And there is also scientific evidence, because back in 1907, there was a Dr. Duncan McDougall. He did 6 experiments with 6 dying patients in the hospital. He found people that was just about to die, and then he put the hospital bed on scales. And these was very sensitive scales that could measure down to a part of a gram. And they were watching these people all the way up to when they quit breathing. Shortly after, nothing has touched the bed, nothing changed. There was a sudden decrease in weight of the bed of approximately 21.3 grams.
Wow.
And this wasn't just a fluke of happening once. There were, some of them were quite a bit more, and some of them were a little less in decrease of weight. So this science could not wrap their head around it in 1907. So they said, no, this is all coincidence. I don't care. 6 times in a row, the same thing. Yeah, it's coincidence. I don't buy it because nothing. He wrote a paper on it, and you can go and read that. Dr. Duncan McDougall experiment on death in 1907. You can Google that or duck it, and then you're going to read some interesting stuff, what he found. And I have evidence for myself because in this house, there was an older gentleman that died in this house about 3 years ago. And I was standing in the doorway looking at the bed with him in it about probably 5 minutes after that he had quit breathing. And I saw a grayish kind of human form, not really detailed, but a human formed grayish substance leave the body and very rapidly go up at a 45-degree angle and whoosh right through the roof and be gone. That was the...
This as well around the same time. I thought I saw a series of photographs describing what you saw, but they actually caught that on film.
Yes, there are some people that have done that, and it does happen. And I could kick myself because I had the telephone in my hand at the time. But why should I even think about taking a picture of it? Of course, But now, if it ever happens anything like that again, I'm going to have that doggone camera right on the person. But this happens a lot more, and a lot of times people don't talk about it. Because the closest we can get to an actual evidence individually is what we call near-death experiences. And there are thousands of people around the country and probably millions around the world that have had these experiences. Some of them don't dare to talk about it, especially if they're buried in religion. Then they get ostracized by the church. But some of them talk about it. And there are very much similarities. An awful lot of these people, they die on the operating table, they die in car crashes, or they died home in the bed, or they find themselves outside of the body looking back at the body. That is their consciousness looking back at themselves after they have quit breathing and they have died. And some of them find themselves going through a shiny tunnel over to the other side. And for the ones that is coming back and talking about this, every one of them seems like they found somebody at the other end of the tunnel that was either their mom or their relative, their spouse, or that has already departed. And they say, hey, wait a minute, you can't come here. It's not your time yet. You have to go back. You have more work to do. And they tell the person, go back, go back, go back. And a lot of times they really don't want to go back because they know that they're all broken up in the car crash or something. So it's not going to be a pleasant experience. But they end up going back. And once they come back with an attitude that they are no longer afraid of death because they know what it is like. They know there is nothing to be afraid of. They know it is wonderful at the other end of that tunnel. But it wasn't their time, so they just couldn't go there yet. And the reason this happened is because it isn't just here that accidents happen. Errors and accidents happen also on the spiritual side. The way it was explained...
Yeah. What's the error? Yeah, I haven't heard that one before. What happens? Who makes it on that side?
Yeah, well, think of it this way. If you go all the way through the tunnel and somebody come and tell you, you can't come here yet, there was an accident, you got to go back. that means that it did not coincide with the master plan that you had agreed to do before you took on the body. So you got to go back and you got to do certain things. Maybe those certain things was kind of like maybe Joe Dispenza, a chiropractor. On his bicycle, he had an accident. He broke his back in several places. The doctors told him, you will never walk again. We can do a questionable surgery, but we will fuse your spine. And he told them, nope, not going to do it. He went home and visualized his spine back together, fully working again. And I think it was 9 months later, he was out of the bed walking. These kinds of things people are going through. And it has a purpose for it, so that they can now tell other people that there are other choices. There is healing out there that you can have if you quit listening to maybe the doctor that tells you you can't ever walk again. There's a purpose for it, and that's why some of these people are told, go back. You're not done with your purpose yet. But there are errors on the other side too, and that could be, there are several incidents of that. And in my book, I explain one down in Puerto Rico where there was a 10-year-old kid that got ran over and killed on his bicycle. And a year later, his brother, his twin brother, got run over and killed by the same car, the same driver, and the same passenger in that taxi cab.
Wow.
From what I understand is that the first kid, he wasn't supposed to get killed, but the universe somehow got things mixed up, so they ended up doing a mistake. Those things does happen, but often they are able to correct it when they go through the tunnel. They have to send them back, or if the people say, nope, I'm not going back, I'm going forward, then they have to abandon the master plan that they came for, and they are probably accepted in and a little re-education and so on. And then they're back at it again in maybe another lifetime. We don't know where it goes from there.
You know, maybe taking it a step back with the lesson would be to say, Doctor, I don't accept your hex. I'm going to make myself well. And to be able to stand up, so maybe that's the lesson for this lifetime, in that situation. I refuse to accept your hex. I'm going to make myself well. I'm going to ask my MasterMind group to help me.
There you go. A lot of people have done that.
About the controversy of going into the night or not going into the light. Some people say, tell your person that died, go into the light, and some people are saying that's a trap. The light's not really the light, it's the opposite, it's the dark.
Oh my gosh.
What's your thoughts on that controversy that's out there on life after life?
Well, the dark side that will go to any lengths to gain more popularity and more support and more people, I suppose. So in the absence of light, there is darkness. In the darkness, there are thought forms, spiritual entities, souls that believe that they belong there. And it's a lonely experience unless they get other souls and thought forms to join them. So they would want to have other people join them. And I know what I saw, what people call heaven, that is just another place. It's an intermediary place. It's not the source of all things. But that heaven is a nice place, and it will lead you later on to the source once you outgrow that place. There's a book out there that is called The Library Upstairs. A friend of mine in Texas, he wrote that book. Joe Holbrook, he wrote that book, and he explains what he has seen in heaven. And it is, I I also explain that very well in the book about spiritual science. I talk about what you find when you drop the body, the process of going through it. It can guide you through the tunnel, or it can guide you through where you need to be. And then we hear, oh, this is a good one. We hear when people going through this tunnel here, nobody has ever come back and say, I saw this guy floating right by me and he had a turban on, or he had... No. There are only people of your own kind, so to speak. Now, the people in the Middle East, or let's say in India, they see people dressed like them going through there because that is what their mind has accepted to be real for them. So they all end up at the same place, but going through the tunnel, you haven't separated yourself from where you came yet. So it is more comfortable for you to be with your own kind. And I think there's probably something to that. I know there's a lot of religious phobia around, and let's say that you don't think much of a certain other religion. And then you end up dropping the body, going through the tunnel, and let's say that you had a busload of Muslims got killed, and they're all going through the same. That could scare you to the point where you don't even want to go there. So there's something to familiarity. So I think there is probably a good thing that they all looked like you when you're going through that tunnel. That's the way it was explained to me, for familiarity. Until you get to the other side, there's a little bit of a re-education process at the other side, because you come there with amnesia. The only thing you remember and know is what you have gone through here on earth. Until that veil is lifted, you have amnesia, because amnesia will follow you in the lower astral worlds. Mm-hmm. Until you get out of that vibration up to the higher vibrations where you, get re-educated, and you see that, wait a minute, it wasn't like the religion told me. And there's another the religions.
What I was wondering, because other people like Ring and others have said, you go through a period where you feel all the pain you've inflicted upon others. And I just wonder whether you got that kind of report in your research.
Yes, very much so. In fact, there is a day, and guess who is the judge? You are. You judge your own experience. And that's where the saying comes, my life flashed before my eyes. Because once you drop the body, or slightly before even, right in the process of doing it, you could go through this. When the brain empties all its knowledge into the spiritual vehicle or the consciousness, and you take that with you and leave, when you dump that out of the brain, you experience everything you have done from the time you were born up to, if you really screwed somebody over really bad and they hurt from it, you end up having the experience of the hurt that other person had. You will live and relive all your experience during your life, the good ones and the bad ones. And when you are going through that, it will take about a few seconds. It could be maybe a few seconds to 10 seconds, and it's all over. And you have the memory of going through everything that you have done with the experience and the feelings and the angst and the misery that you inflicted on other people included. For some people, it's a horrible experience which lasts very short time. And from there on, you go through something that is called the guardians of the soul. And it was explained to me in the download, this is a group of higher vibratory creatures. I know religions would call it angels. That's fine. None of them have wings because angels don't have wings. The word angel comes from the old Sumerian language called messenger. So they are, just there as guides for you. So they will review your life experience with you. And they will ask you questions. What did you feel about this? What did you feel about that? Would you have done that different if you had known better? Do you feel like you want to go back and do this over again to get a different view of it? Or have you learned a lot already? So they will review it with you. And when you are done, there may be something that you screwed up so bad that you want to go back and try to do it over again. And then again, maybe that person that you harmed has not left physical yet. You will wait for them until they drop the body, and then they come, and you will then, the two of you, decide, do we want to go back and do this over again because we didn't learn our experience? Because remember, you don't have to wait that long because you are in a place where past, present, and future all exist at the same time. So you have access to the past and you can bring it into the present. So it don't take that long to wait for that other person. It could take him 40 years on Earth until that person died, but it could take just a moment in the spiritual reality until you're able to meet them.
People, the committee, are they Caucasian or brown, depending on who the patient is, who you are?
These particular ones, they are light beings, and there is really very little color in it except for light. You can see that they have robes on. I saw them with the robes on, and they were kind of like, I made a point of remembering that because they had gold on the cuff, the cuffs and around the neck and so on. So they were kind of like their dress. They were dressed as spiritual beings, but they were lit up like light bulbs. You could see through the light into what was behind it. And these are called the guardians of the soul.
Do you think they look that way because that's how you expect them to look, or do you think they always walk around with clothes on even when you're not there?
Yeah, that could be. What I saw, that was that way. For some other people, there may be different ones. That on that side, color. If we are of color, if we are yellow, if we're brown, if we're black, or if we're green, it wouldn't make any difference. We are all the same.
Uh-huh. So you're saying the logical thing is that if one person predeceases another and they have unfinished business, then one waits for the other person to come. What's that encounter like when two people who have died are discussing their karma? Are the guides still there to help them, or how does that work?
Yes, the guards are still The guides are still there. And what happens is not necessarily always that way. You may end up going on to a new incarnation, while the person that you harmed really bad are still in physical form in its own. When they go, then they may come and have the same experience with the guardians of the soul as you do, but your consciousness will come back and visit with them, or soul, I guess you could call it, come back, and the two of you will visit again, and then you will decide maybe that other person should maybe join you in your life experience again, so you can go through and learn more from that previous experience by playing it out in a new setting. It gets
wow. So the people that you harm and the people that harm you are the special people that you have lessons to share with each other.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that once, let's say that you had an enemy, that if they had the chance, they would have killed you in a split second. After you drop the body, when you get to that place with the guardian of the soul, the animosity is no longer there. Now it is only an experience. You do not have the enemies there anymore. The enemy has gone away, even though it's the same person.
Uh-huh. Wow.
I know, this is getting a little deep.
So they can have another incarnation in between. You're still alive, they're dead, but you have karma, and they could go experience another incarnation while you're still alive, and then when you're both dead, you meet. It's outside of time and space.
And also when I was with Roger Wilger, we kept finding people that would go on these sequences of being victim, then being perked, being victim, then being perked. The drunken Indian was a cavalry man who was mean to Indians, and it goes on like that, back and forth through the ages.
It is very often that you switch roles, so you can learn from the other person's point of view. So yeah.
So we basically are every color, creed. Are we extraterrestrial as well? Do we go in and out of non-terrestrial forms?
That can very well happen. A lot of times, from what I understood, is that Earth is such a diverse place. And because of the emotions and the feelings and the capabilities of the human mind, you are able to learn so much faster here than you are at many other places in the universe, on other planets and starships and so on. So yes, we could have lifetimes on other planets. And I have one that I have gone back under hypnosis and discovered, and that is where I was on a ship. And that ship was huge, hundreds of miles long, and that was our planet. We born there, we lived all our lives there, and we died there. We never set foot on a planet's surface anywhere. This was our planet. And we had a job to do. Everything was pretty much wonderful. We had learning experiences, but it was not as diverse as it would be on Earth. And that's why a lot of people get trapped into, they want to learn and go through and experience as much as possible, as fast as possible. So that's why Earth is such a popular place.
So do we have a lot of extraterrestrials walking among us and we don't know they're extraterrestrials?
Oh, yeah. It happens.
Or they don't know they are sometimes.
Yeah, do we have people who don't know they're ET?
Well, I don't know. That could be possibly. I'm sure that if they came from another world and are still in physical forms, they probably would have the memory of coming from there, unless they were born into this Earth situation. But there are extraterrestrials walking down the street with us because they look just like us, many of them. There are, here is something that you can try sometime. And this works with human to human just as well. If you want to contact another person's mind, try this. When you walk down the street, look at the back of their neck if they're in front of you. Stare at that spot at the bottom of the skull, at the top of the neck. Stare at that spot. And in your mind, say the words, turn around, turn around, turn around.
Yeah.
I tell you, you'll be surprised how many times that happened. If you try it 20 times, I'll almost guarantee you're going to have one or two of them, even starting out from knowing nothing. You're going to have one or two of them that will turn around and look back like something. They wonder what's behind them. The more you do this, the better you get at it. It's a form of telepathy.
Are they ever angry? Do they ever turn around and go, what do you want?
I don't know what they're thinking when they're turning around, but I've done this and it works.
I can tell you in Hawaii, if you look at somebody in the eye, you better be prepared to say something friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about
You've got to say something friendly right away. It's very important.
Very important.
Yeah. Same
thing.
Same,
morning, anything.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, same thing in Russia. Yeah, the Russians are rough people. You want to be friends with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we mentioned karma just a little while ago. Karma is more like an incompleted previous contract. Yeah. There are arrangements that we make before we create the body. It's kind of a wild card, because if you don't accomplish what you came here for, you end up coming back and telling the guardians of the soul that, hey, sorry, I screwed up. Well, maybe not necessarily, but you feel that way when you come back, because when you find out what your life contract was and you didn't complete it, it feels like there is a debt that you want to complete something. But there's a way to bypass karma. And here is one of them. Let's say that you came back with a a mission to go through having cancer. And if you are around somebody that have cancer and you feel compassion for them, that might be a sign either for you that you're supposed to help that person or you're supposed to learn from that person. If you then get into that other person's mind, talk to them, find out what it feels like for them, what is going on in their mind? What do they learn from having cancer? If you can learn what it is like having cancer from another person, you may not have to go through it, and you still complete your karmic, or should I say your life mission.
Oh, that's wonderful. That makes so much sense. You know, all these years as a psychotherapist, I've had all these experiences with the people that share their experiences with me. Wow.
Yeah. Another thing is, whenever you feel compassion for somebody, don't turn your walk away. Get in with them, talk to them, get in their mind. Why do we feel compassion for somebody? That is because there is a contact. There is a contact with that person that may not be physical. It could be a person that you never ever seen before in your life, and if you turn around, you will never ever see them again. Make contact if you feel that compassion, because compassion is a higher vibratory energy that comes from outside of the physical into the physical. And quantum mechanics tells us that all changes happen in the the quantum reality before it happens in the macro world where we live. So there is something there that we're supposed to experience, and that compassion or love or whatever it feels like is our sign that there is a contact. We should explore that contact and find out what is in it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a message for us to learn something. Most likely is.
Yeah. If somebody appears in your dreams, that's a sign to contact that person too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There were times in my life when...
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
what about the times?
I was just saying there was time in my life when I never remembered my dreams until I figured out how to remember, and now I remember them quite often. So
what's your system? I got a system. How did you teach yourself to remember your dreams? Uh-oh, he's gone.
You there? Aage, you still there?
Oops, I'm sorry. I had to clear my throat and I muted myself and I forgot to unmute myself.
So I was asking you, what's your system? How did you teach yourself to remember dreams before you weren't?
Well, dreams can be many things. So it could be just a compilation of stuff that is happening in your daily life, which has very little, if any, importance. But there are also messages that come down from the higher vibrations of yourself for you to look at. What I used to teach in the Zox Pro training course, I traveled around the country teaching that mind development course, is that you can remember your dreams. Keep a small glass of water right by your bed. Right before you go to lay down, drink that water. I don't know why, but it seems to work. Drink that water, and then you lay down, and you tell yourself about 10 times in a row, I will remember everything I dream tonight and have perfect recall in the morning. I will remember everything I dream tonight and have perfect recall in the morning. Say that about 10 times in a row and then just let yourself drift off to dreamland. When you wake up in the morning,
Right.
very likely you will have a good remembrance of it. But do like maybe I do, I keep a little, not tape recorder, but a voice recorder next to my bed. So I grab that thing and push the record button, and I talk for about 3 to 5 seconds about what the dream was about, keywords and so on. Because this is so lightly in your mind that once you get up and start doing things, it disappears on you. Unless you have keywords about the dream. Then when you run those keywords, then, oh yeah, that's right, I dreamed about that. And now you remember the dream again. Make sense?
Yes. I would just add one thing is that if your arm and your neck and your shoulder and so forth are in a certain position, if you will return to that position exactly, you've got a better chance of remembering your dreams than losing it if you can return to the exact same head, neck, and shoulder position.
Yeah. Well, like I say, with else, there is only way that is the right way to do this, and that is the way that works. So we all have different ways of doing it. You use that one, and I tell you, it sounds like it could work very well. So if it works, boy, oh boy, keep doing it.
Do you ever dream that you're living another life? I have this dream where it's ongoing, and I'm on another planet. I have another job. I have an apartment. I have an office I go to. It's a city that is nothing like we have here on Earth. The trees are built into the buildings and vice versa. All the vegetation wraps around. Even in the giant cities, the vines will climb up, incredibly high, and the trees are gigantic like an avatar. Anyway, I come back, and I also have I'm in a different vibratory frequency. Like my third eye chakra is vibrating at a really high place, and I feel like I'm in an altered state of consciousness. And then what I do is I come and I tell somebody your dream. So I have a husband, so I got to tell you a dream. And he says, okay, I'm all yours. But if you don't have somebody to tell, like you write down your key points. But if you could even journal the key points as you're journaling, more of the dream comes back. And even if you're making it up, make it up. Where are you making it up from? Where's it coming from? You're usually just pulling it in from where it is already.
Oh, and the other thing is if you don't remember anything, to just realize that your psyche has worked it out in your sleep and relax about it.
Yeah, all of those things be very real. And you said a key word there. You said journaling. If you're interested in dream, you really should journal your dreams, because a lot of times you dream something and you wake up and it's, man, oh man, that didn't make sense at all. But okay, write it down. 3 weeks from now, if you read through the journal, it may make perfect sense to you. So try that one. And otherwise, when you say that you have been dreaming that you are living a different life, chances are you are. Because you may be living in a different timeline where things are different. Many things are the same as here, but it's a different timeline where you have different sciences and the cars are flying and a lot of things can be different. And you may be living there also, because we are operating all the time in several different timelines. Have you ever come back from the grocery store with your hand full of grocery bags and you put your car keys down on the island in the kitchen and you walk and you put the groceries away and you turn around and to get your car keys and they're gone?
Yeah.
You can't find them anywhere. And you reach in your pocket and there they are. Or they're just gone. And 2 hours later you come back and there they are on the island. There was something called time slippage. The veil between two different realities or physical existences are very thin these days, because we are now gaining in vibration. We are imposing almost on our next vibration above us. And that is why more people now are seeing shadow people than they've ever done before, because we are getting closer to that vibration. And this is all about going into 5D. And you could have slipped into a parallel universe by just maybe zoning out a little bit. And that brought you into that existence. And you put away your groceries in that existence. At the same time you were doing it in the other one. And then you slip back into the one again where the car keys are laying on the island in the kitchen.
Have you ever had a dream that went on over a period of time? I've had one that went on for years. And then 5 years go by and then I get another piece of it. And then I had one that unraveled over 3 or 4 days. It's like, I would have other dreams in between, but then back in the dream that I had started 4 days ago and finally it finishes. You never had anything like that? Maybe I'm just weird. I'm a very lucid dreamer.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
years.
So I fell to my death when I was storming the Bastille in the French Revolution, and I eventually met the characters in that scenario, and I met the man, and we were both dead at the time, but I met him as female to male, and I fell in love with him. And that's why I flew to Hawaii. That was coming to Hawaii to meet back with this man in person. We didn't end up getting married, but I ended up finding this one here. Had I not flown across the planet to Hawaii, I would not be where I am now. So it was all perfect. It was like my soul was guiding me to this past life connection, which was leading me to the next phase of my existence.
Wow. So you were there during the French Revolution? I
remember running up the stairs of the Bastille, and there were a bunch of soldiers after me, and I was in costume at the time. I was a very small man, very and I managed to outfox them and get to the top level, but then they surrounded me. So rather than let them take me, I jumped off the balcony. I knew I was going to die, but I left my body before I hit the ground. I mean, it was a great detail. I kept having this thing happen over and over, on a regular basis, starting when I was very young, probably 3 or 4 years old. And I'd wake up and go, what? I'm not a man, I'm a little girl. What's going on here? And it just kept going on and on until finally I met the other character in the play, and I was in my, I was around 40 at the time, and then it played out to the end. Haven't had it since. It had to be gone.
Well, it's not unlikely that you actually had an existence like that.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a replay. It could be a replay of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think life is more complicated if we can somehow access it. It's not just the life review. I was having a review in this life of a previous life. It was like a bleed through.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There is more of this than we think. Much more.
Oh. I hope your friend has all her questions answered. What else do we want to tell our listeners about what happens when we die?
Well, I'm more about helping people to make their lives better and have a better understanding of their existence. So that's why I've been on the radio circuit for a few years now, talking about this book about spiritual science, higher conscious thinking, and how to access the universal consciousness. And of course, you can find it on Amazon and bookstores and stuff. You can get a hold of it. But in there, I write about this download that I had when the universe was explained to me in concept and detail. And I teach people how to use their mind in ways that they otherwise have a hard time figuring out how to do. And I talk about other things too that is backed by science. And one of the things that I'm getting a lot of feedback on that is very successful for people, and that is, in fact, in 2009, 3 doctors got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process. I explain in the book what I'm doing and how we can do that. In fact, when it comes to reversing the aging process, when we do that, also all age-related diseases go away. And if you want to check out this for yourself, go to the Nobel Committee's website, go to 2009, scroll down to medical submissions, and read the papers. It is quite
so is this enzyme available? Is it something that you could get at the vitamin store?
There is a pharmaceutical out there that say they're doing this. It's called TA-65. It's rather expensive. It's going to probably set you back about $400 a month or so if you go the pharmaceutical way. But I'm doing it the cheap way. I'm doing the same thing as a man that I found in China. The government verified his age. He died from an accident at 256 years old. And there's
somebody 256 years old.
Well, he was a martial arts instructor for the army, the Chinese army. He was an herbalist and a spiritual teacher. And one of the big reasons that he lived as long. It was that he knew he could never die. And also, there are some of these herbs that you can get a hold of, and I'm taking them. And those herbs, they will help the body create its own telomerase, which is the name of this enzyme.
Telomere.
Yeah. And it is really simple. It set me back, I don't know, probably around $40 a month or something like that in order to do this. And there's a picture floating around on me from 5 years ago, and I looked old, and I don't feel that way anymore. So something's working here. And,
Is this on your site? You can order it on your website or something?
No. This is something that I write about it in the book, where you can also get a hold of the herbs for it. And Jiaogulan herb is what it's pronounced. That is called the immortality herb in China. And also, if you take astragalus in the large doses, it will create the enzyme in your body. The body will create the enzyme on its own. You don't have to buy it from the pharmaceutical companies. And there is medical research talking about this, and I refer to that in the book also. You can see what it's like. And
so it affects
otherwise,
telomeres. It stimulates growth, or it prevents the decay of the telomeres. Is that what you're saying? Where the delivery
exactly. Is? Yeah. See, science has figured out why we get older and die.
Yeah.
And
do they have a lot of people over 200? Was that like a certain part of the China where they all lived, or was it just one person?
Well, this guy, Li Xing Yuan, if you Google the 256-year-old man, you can read about him. And
okay.
Yeah, and just read about it yourself and you'll find out. Because there are certain things that he did, of course, that we don't normally do here, like going to McDonald's and things like that. That didn't happen in his life. But he also, the biggest part of what he ate was Chinese herbs and berries. And I'm not doing that. I eat once in a while. I try to keep at least 50% of my food, raw, uncooked food, because if you cook the food, you kill it. You kill all the enzymes, and enzymes are very important for your body.
Well, we're almost out of time. One more time, tell us your website and your book, and
Okay.
Jenna's going to get me books.
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, and the book itself, it's Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. It will teach you another world. And you can find it on Amazon. That's probably the quickest way to get it. I also have it on another website that I have, is Aage-Nost.com. My first name - my last name.com. It's there too. But I also have 2 radio shows that I'm doing, and one is broadcastteamalpha.com, and where me and Nori Love. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Love and bless.